So the verdict is in. They found Trump guilty on all charges. And you know what? The sad thing about this is there are black Americans that are celebrating and happy about this. You know what? Sitting back watching this, the first thought came to my mind, and especially when I watched a video by Willie D Live, the thought came to my mind is, I don't ever want to hear anything about a black American being murdered or being treated unfairly. I don't want to hear anything about the injustices that were done to your so-called ancestors. I don't want to hear anything about that, because now you have joined forces with the same enemies that had destroyed your ancestors, destroyed your history, had destroyed your name, your culture, your religion, that had kidnapped you from your homeland and enslaved you for over 400 years, have done the same thing. Listen, the devil never changes his tactics. A zebra never changes its stripes. They've used the same tactics on Trump that they did on your so-called ancestors. And now you've joined forces with the enemy. So I don't want to hear anything else about the injustices of black Americans. I don't want to hear anything about George Floyd or anyone else that have lost their lives under the Democrat system, because you're celebrating that an innocent man was convicted by a jury of all Democrats. And I'm sure there's some of those jurors that wanted to vote different, but they would have had to deal with the consequences. This was a rigged case from start to finish. The judge refused to recuse himself because they had an agenda. Alvin Bragg, Letitia James, and Letitia James, she's a tether. She's not even black American, if I'm not mistaken. But for all of you out there that's still supporting the Democrat Party, don't complain about nothing. Because the condition that you're in today, all the lives of your current loved ones that have lost their lives to law enforcement, and the officers were able to walk away, I don't want to hear anything about that. So, it's unfortunate. History has taken a turn. But it is what it is. This is all Bible prophecy. It's all a part of the fall of Babylon, the destruction of Babylon the Great. And there are enemies behind scenes, behind lines, that even when Babylon fall, they are going to celebrate. And it's too late now for any juror to say, I made a mistake, because you're going to have someone to do that. You're going to have some jurors that's going to come out and say, I made a mistake. I was under pressure. I was afraid for my family. Well, you should have recused yourself. You had every opportunity to walk away from it, and you didn't. So from this day forward, I don't want to hear anything, no complaints from black Americans, especially the ones that still Democrat, that support the Democrat Party, that actually thinks that Joe Biden is doing a great job. Listen, let me tell you what Joe Biden really thinks of you. He was at one of the colleges, I believe, and he let out a fart and turned around and looked surprised. We didn't hear no apology. And the black people that were sitting in back of him that received the farts sat there and they all laughed. Now, what if Trump had done that? What if another black American had farted? You would have had people moving out the way. You would have had people angry. You know, why would you do that? Nobody wants to smell your body odors. They would have made a big scene. But because it was Biden, you sat there and soaked in and breathed in his body flatulence. See, this is where the mind is of so many black Americans. So now you deserve everything that comes to you. And this is not being said out of hate, but you deserve everything that comes to you because now you support the same party, the same people that lynched your family members back in time. They destroyed your ancestors. They enslaved your ancestors and justified and had the same type of trial that Trump had. It was all stacked against him. They wouldn't allow real evidence. They wouldn't even allow the man to speak to defend himself. And you guys are celebrating, and a lot of y'all are going to start walking around saying like, well, he was convicted by his own peers. Those weren't his peers. Those were his enemies. And you guys are satisfied with that just because it's Trump. Listen, I wouldn't care who the person is. I don't think any person should ever have to go through what he went through. And talk about election interference. This is what the Democrats are doing while convicting him for election interference. So we knew it was going to happen. We knew what was coming because the courts, everything was stacked against him. You know, he was amongst enemies. He was amongst snakes and vipers that wanted the bragging rights to say that we tried and convicted Trump for federal offenses that no one had ever received or would have ever received. So I don't want to hear any complaints when black Americans are treated unfairly in this injustice of a system, because you're taking part of that. You're celebrating. You are among the lynch mob. You are among the same people that sat there as an audience and watched your ancestors hang from a tree. So feedback, tell me what you think until next time. I'm fearless.